coming up here. I know it's been a long night. We appreciate you coming here. So without further ado, we'll start with with a round of introductions of myself and the panelists. My name is Nishant Sharma. I run a public relations consulting firm for the mining industry. Been doing it for more than 10 years now. And we also run a trade publication for the mining industry called the Miner Mag. If you haven't checked it out already, visit it. It's at theminermag.com.
I'm Neil Galloway, Director of Technical Sales for Foundry. I've been in the space for about a decade. We have been deploying large-scale sites all over the North American region for probably about the last 5 years. We're debuting all kinds of new hardware lately. There's a few other things in our pool as well. Chris?
My name is Christopher Crowell. I've been in Bitcoin since 2018. I work for a company called Canaan. We build the Avalon miner. We invented the Bitcoin ASIC miner. We also build these home miners, really cool devices to warm your house, and you also have a little bit of Bitcoin revenue every day. But our big business is industrial Bitcoin mining, so large scale. So this kind of conference is great because we get to see all of our clients, partners, and new friends. So it's really good to be here.
All right, so the topic of the panel is Bitcoin mining hardware. And we will start with the basics for the uninitiated in the audience and also those who are very familiar with the space but still may not know some nuances that panelists here may bring. So to begin with, what are the most important metrics that someone should look at when it comes to Bitcoin mining hardware? And when we say hardware, it just doesn't mean the machine itself, but all the allied hardware that makes a large-scale mining facility.
So I'll start with that one, and then I think Neil is going to elaborate because he brings the details. So with Bitcoin mining hardware, traditionally in Bitcoin, the mining industry, we've looked at three factors, right? So you have your own power price that you have at home or in the office or where you're working. And then you have the price of the actual mining machine. And then you also have what the power efficiency of the machine is. So you kind of balance these three things to decide what type of mining hardware you want to purchase. So if you have really good power price, you can buy a cheaper miner that isn't as power efficient and run it really well, ROI. If your power costs are high, you have high operation cost, you want to invest more in a miner that has a lower power efficiency so that you can run it for a while. So when we're looking at different mining equipment, these are the kind of decisions you make. Everything else goes down to operations, what it looks like, where you're mining Bitcoin. Are your labor costs high? Are you in a rural spot? You have trouble hiring people? It's actually Bitcoin mining hardware is actually a really simple thing. It just comes down to the price and the power efficiency, right? And you take that balance. But I think it's very important for mining hardware to focus on ROI. Last cycle here in North America, there was a big focus on power efficiency. Everybody talked about power efficiency, and we lost what traditionally Bitcoin mining was ROI. Try to make your money back on the miner before the next one comes out, right? So, Neil can definitely elaborate on that one. He's the master in the space.
Yeah, I can actually kind of elaborate at scale. So that's a granular view on the profitability of your hardware and how you're going to deploy it. But whenever you start deploying at scale, there's three metrics that our site operations teams like to look at. We have uptime, hash rate efficiency, and utilization. So the utilization piece of it is it's just a metric to tell you how many open spaces that you have in those racks, right? Then you have your hash rate efficiency and your uptime. Most manufacturers are going to underpromise and overdeliver on the plus minus 5% on the hash rate. So what's going to happen is your hash rate efficiency 9 times out of 10 is always going to be above 100%, right? So we're going to judge it at a spec level. Then the hash rate efficiency is above 100%, so that could be 102%. So even if you have 100% uptime and 102% hash rate efficiency, it's a real key indicator to several things. That's where the investigation starts, right? So you can investigate from a site ops perspective, is there something wrong with the infrastructure? And then you can also investigate from the hardware perspective, is there something wrong with my firmware? Is there something wrong with my PDUs? whenever they come out of curtailment, things like that. So from a site ops perspective, it's a very key indicator if your hash rate efficiency drops below your uptime metric.
So hash rate efficiency is a very good metric, I guess, from the site point of view.
Very much so. Yeah, so the hash rate efficiency is one of these things where you're going to get a sticker hash rate, and it's going to tell you that, for example, 120 terahash. Most of those machines are probably going to do 122 terahash, and then if one board out of the three is down, there's going to be a 33% decrease in that, which is going to really, really impact on the overall number of that over 100% hash rate. So the minute you see your hash rate efficiency drop below what your uptime is, investigation needs to start immediately, and you need to start troubleshooting. Usually your techs on site will probably be able to tell you immediately what's wrong.
Yeah, I really like this bringing up this topic. I always call it the sticker on the box, and I think it was a big focus last cycle in North America. What is the sticker on the box? How much theoretical hash rate is my site bringing? And it's useful to do that if you're trying to raise funds, but what are you actually mining? What is the Bitcoin miner doing in efficiency, and what kind of hash rate are you bringing? Are your miners shutting down at 3 p.m., 4 p.m., or earlier because of the heat of the day? I think it's really important that we focus on what your miner's really doing, and that would be a great metric. Just to do a plug for Canaan and our Avalon miners, they run really well throughout the heat of the day. They're workhorses, as a certain CEO said last night to me. But Hive, they just purchased over 10,000 of our machines. Cypher Mining, a great partner. They trust our machines. They've also said in releases that our machines perform the best out of the other brands on their sites. Recently, we did a press release with CleanSpark and Stronghold Digital. So we're showing the market that the machines run, and we're talking about hash rate. These machines will run all day. So it's very important to look at what the machines actually do versus what theoretically on the box, what the sticker says.
So to sum it up, make sure you are looking at the bigger picture, not just the theoretical efficiency of one mining unit in your facility. So moving on, we would like to start with the current trends and innovations in the industry. And the most obvious point that stands out, to me at least, is that there are various other innovations happening on the hardware side that are beyond just the chip level. So it's not just about going from 5 nanometer process node to the 3 nanometer process node and so forth. There's so much innovation happening outside just the chip level that is increasing the efficiency of these mining facilities. Tell us more about that. I'm sure Christopher has many things to say from the side, from the point of view of the hardware manufacturer, because you're not just manufacturing the chip, but also manufacturing the associated hardware, other things that they can use from you guys and buy from you guys at the same time they buy the machine to make it more efficient. And you must be bringing a lot of experience from your client side when you're helping them deploy these machines. So we would love to hear how all these new technological advancements are improving efficiencies.
We'll start with manufacturer.
Yeah, we'll start with the manufacturer. Let's all just mine in our house. Let's just do that from now on, right? Let's just mine Bitcoin in your house in the winter, keep your house warm, right? So there's different ways to mine Bitcoin on the hardware side. Right now we have 3 main options. You can air cool your site, you can do immersion with the dielectric fluids, or you can run a hydro rig where it runs cold water through the hash board heat sinks to cool down the miner. I think these we're going to have to advance these more. You're seeing clients, they want to buy immersion. For example, I just mentioned CleanSpark. They just purchased almost 4,000 of our Avalon miners, and they're immersion based, right? So these machines, they're being looked at by the biggest players and how they can be more efficient and find ways to, as you mentioned, the semiconductors, utilize the technology in there the best as possible. I'm not going to talk about overclocking and underclocking this topic because it's a whole other topic. But The truth of the matter is the semiconductors in these machines, they have to be cooled as best possible to get the most computational power out of it. You can push it a little harder, you can bring it down a little lighter, depending on, like as I mentioned earlier, the power prices and operation cost. But the infrastructure and how you're running the machines is going to decide how long you can operate and how long you can use those machines, and what type of efficiency you're getting. There is a balancing act with that. Infrastructure for hydrocooling miners and infrastructure for immersion miners is a little more expensive, right? It's easier to set up an air-cooled site because typically you can just get your racks ready, do an exhaust system, negative, positive pressure, and then put the miner on the rack and go. Where immersion and hydro systems are a little more complicated. But if you plan it out right, it can last you a lot longer and you can keep your miner in healthy condition. Canaan, bring up my company again. We're very conservative in how we design our miners. We want to make sure that we build miners that can go into these systems for a long time. We're not changing our design constantly. You'll be able to, use your, current infrastructure for a while, and we want to make sure that that cost stays with you so that you can make the most of what you've built. One quick thing about semiconductors. Moore's Law still exists, and we're going to see these machines getting more and more wild. Next year, I think it's going to be just an absolutely insane year. But on top of that, Bitcoin price is going to go wild too, right? So it's going to be okay. We're going to have a lot of fun, okay?
Yeah, I would say Foundry comes at this from more of a perspective of like mining services and hardware. We do a lot of aftermarket parts manufacturing. We have a control board that's kind of conveyance for that firmware. So coming at it from what Chris is talking about with new hardware, I feel like the efficiency gains that new hardware is making is going to make it a lot harder for us to have efficiency gains on the back end in the aftermarket region. We've seen things go from an APW3 all the way to this APW17, and if you look at the efficiency gains that we've made with that, we're able to kind of ink by, and I like to compare it to Olympic runners. Everybody gets up to a certain level in their skill, and they have to compete for a tenth of a second, right? So every cycle that we have with Bitcoin, building on Moore's Law, we're competing for a tenth of a second. So as we progress and we advance with our efficiency on the OEM side, the aftermarket gains are going to be harder and harder to get over time. We used to see things like on the S9 series, just a quick example, the S9 series used to be able to take a firmware and you would be able to clock those chips to an S17 level. So we could get 18 terahash out of two S9s for about 900 to 1200 watts, and regularly that was a 1300 watt machine. Well, with the K Pro, for example, we're able to go from 23 joules per terahash down to 18 joules per terahash. So we're only able to get about 5 joules per terahash out of that. And by using those underclocking features, we can squeeze a little bit more life out of these machines. So whenever you start talking about efficiency and like the way that the OEM market's going, we only have probably a couple more cycles where we can squeeze a little bit more juice out of these machines, right? So all that said, just for example, our power supply, if you leave the stock firmware and you're able to put our power supply on the side of it, we've been able to get an efficiency gain of between 3 and 5%. And at 5 cents a kilowatt hour, that'll save you $65 a year. So whenever you start doing that at scale, it's a real savings. We find that a lot harder to do on the APW17 series, which is basically the 80 plus platinum equivalent of efficiency.
So you bring in a good point here that as time progresses, it becomes harder to get these 1/10 of a second kind of efficiencies out of your machine. But on the other hand, with time, it also becomes harder to go to the next process node on the chip side. So you are left with only these efficiencies of 1/10 of a second. So you just need to add them up and make as much lean your operation can be as possible, because there's nothing happening on the chip side after a while. So what do you think on that? Because they are, it's like two sides of the same coin. They go hand in hand as time progresses.
We need a overclock underclock panel. I think that would be a lot of fun. I think everyone would like that a lot. So it's just the fundamentals. R- ROI on your equipment and try to take care of it as best as possible and run it as long as you can. I don't want to go too deep into the weeds on all these different methods of using your equipment to the best possible. Um, you know, but I would just say that there's a lot of options out there on how you can operate your equipment. Canaan, the Avalon miners, we're the only manufacturer currently that has a fully customizable firmware so that you can mess with the power modes. So you can go into different overclock modes and different underclock modes and standard mode, performance mode. I think it's important to have these options for clients and not to solely rely on third parties to break and unlock the machine so that they can do this type of firmware level adjustments. So we try to look at it that way, just to be a more friendly manufacturer and give those options through a firmware.
Yeah, agreed. The firmware in these machines, meet the customer where they're at, give them what they want, right? We're at a point where the chip efficiencies are going to get harder and harder. So that's why you're seeing the shift to manufacturing infrastructure systems. Marathon's coming out with a two-phase system with the intention of it being able to cool not just ASIC chips, but the future technology, right? So I think that's really like where we're at right now. A lot of people are focused on HPC, and those HPC innovations that we're going to see are going to play really well in the Bitcoin mining space as well.
You mentioned a good point here, Christopher, and you also mentioned it, Neil, that you can, you mentioned that you can couple two S9s together and you could get as much juice as one S19 and even reach efficiency levels of the next generation machine by just overclocking it, underclocking it, or doing some other tweaks here and there. A question that comes obviously to the miner is, why didn't the manufacturer give it in the first place? There was a time when there was this new firmware for Bitcoin machines. You may remember it very well, Neil. And then there was a backlash in the community that why didn't Bitmain unlock this potential? Why did they give us a half-cooked machine? And there were various conspiracy theories about why Bitmain was doing that. So we would love to hear from the manufacturer. What are all the factors you consider and decide that this should be the performance metrics and not what the customers are actually able to get in the end from their tweaks?
It's a complicated business because we rely on a model where we design the semiconductor, we put in the order to get them from the Foundry. So whether it's the major ones, we have TSMC and we also have Samsung and Korea. And then when we get the wafers, they come in, and then we use our supply chain expertise to build the machines with these sorted wafers and sorted semiconductors, and then we ship them out to clients. So it's a very complicated process from the design to shipping it to the door. And one thing that is very important to focus on is the wafer level when these semiconductors are coming out. Every chip isn't the same, right? The chips, and it's if you're a tech savvy person, you understand this, that the different locks inside of it, certain could be damaged, there could be issues with the power in certain ones. So we sort the chips by what the power levels are, and then we build a miner, right? To that point, there's tweaking in our design level of what we're going to bring to market, because you have these different options. You have different, like for example, our competitors have different series numbers. We have different series numbers. I can't talk on the company brought up, why they do what they do. I don't know, and I don't have anything to say about it. But I would say that with our company, we're trying to deliver machines that can be used for a long time, depending on your own operation cost and your own power prices. And Yeah, it's a really tough business for us to survive this long. We were one of the first ones, and then we have two other major manufacturers. It's a really hard business. We had to plan out what the market is going to need, a half a year ahead of time, because we're ordering the semiconductors before the clients as yourselves are ordering. So there's a lot of pieces along the way, and there's other things to it too. So we talk about what the machine should be when it gets delivered, right? Well, there's issues with when the client gets it, how far do they want to push the machine, how low do they want to push it, and we also want to take care of the client in that they don't push it too hard. For example, some of these chips you can do outrageous things with them, but the miner's not going to last long, right? So it's also a part of a balancing act between us offering a good product and making sure you're happy with it and use it a long time, and also giving you options on what you can do with the efficiency.
So I probably, coming from an operations perspective, definitely kick back to the warranty on the machines. Whenever we were first buying these miners, most of them were coming with a 6-month warranty or a 180-day warranty. This was probably like 2019, 2020. There was a bit of a split with Bitmain. Right before that happened, What's Miner had taken a pretty large piece of the market share. Whenever they took that market share, and Canaan as well, whenever they took that market share, Bitmain had to answer to that, and the way that they answered to that was with a 1-year warranty. Fun fact, most of those power supplies that are on those miners actually only come with a 6-month warranty themselves, but they're actually giving a 1-year warranty at their own detriment, which is why you have a lot of fights in the warranty process right now. So I would say, like, from a service end, the real question with a manufacturer is how good is your warranty? If you can't really count on that warranty in the first place, and you're worried about massive catastrophic failures on new miners being delivered, it makes it a lot harder for you to push forward with those decisions, right? So these warranty processes, I would say, is probably one of the biggest pains for our technicians on site right now. Whenever we submit a warranty claim, there's no telling what's going to happen. Whenever you send the miner in, speaking specifically of Bitmain, of course, whenever you send that miner in, it could be under warranty, but it could also be called out of warranty because there's a burn mark on the PCB board. Then you're beholden to the storage fees, the repair. You have to pay all of that before you get it back. Sometimes the wire transfer doesn't come through, so you have more storage fees to pay before they'll release the miner. These are the types of things that I feel like the other manufacturers have tried to capitalize on with their warranties as well. One of the things that we did with our aftermarket parts was we decided that the warranty that we wanted to offer was a 6-month warranty from the date of purchase. I think that the warranty should show confidence in your equipment. And a lot of times, whenever you get a manufacturer's warranty, you're probably 3-4 months into that warranty before you kind of call it off and you don't want to deal with it anymore. So a lot of people put more stock in the warranties than they should, is what I'm saying.
Good advice for everyone who's mining or planning to mine here. Don't trust the warranty so much, and trust the manufacturer to tweak it to the max level it can be tweaked to, considering long-term sustainability of the product. And moving on, the price is pumping, and so it's a very important to talk about that as well. How does it influence the market dynamics? How is it affecting the current price of hardware?
I'm a big believer of the Bitcoin 4-year cycle, or the halving cycle as they call it. And I believe if there's no halving cycle, then there is no Bitcoin, because what we have is as halving comes up, we have fear in the market, there's capitulation, bad investments turn over, and then after post-halving, we have supply shock, and it pushes pressure on the Bitcoin price, comes up, then it repeats itself. We have investment, there's bad investment, there's good investment. Then as we go back to having this capitulation again, it just repeats and repeats and repeats, right? And as long as world governments are printing money, the Bitcoin price could go anywhere, right? Because all that liquidity moves into it. Why I bring up the Bitcoin cycle. ASIC prices are almost essentially like a commodity prices. We price these miners per T, per terahash, right? So prices are like $10 per T, $20 per T. They're getting very hot right now. And every cycle we see the prices of miners drop and go up again, drop, and they can rise very quickly. It's just the nature of the business. We have a lot of moving parts ourselves, the semiconductors, and doing that whole process. The founders are smart also. It's not like we're the only ones raising the prices. There's a lot of people behind us who see what Bitcoin's doing, and they like those prices. So don't just, it's just the way the market is, right? So that's why I bring up commodity prices. So if you look at the halving cycle, where are we right now? Right now we're in 2016. We're in 2020. Right. This is 2024. Prices are going to, they're going to increase if that model continues. So right now is a good time to buy ASICs. Right now is a good time to buy Bitcoin miners and secure that hash rate for yourself before prices go. What were S9 prices in? Did they get to 200 per terahash?
I remember don't know what the per terahash was, but they were 2,500 a piece.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the top.
So yeah, if you do the math, I think it was just outrageous numbers. We've always been a more fairly priced manufacturer. Our machines offer good ROI because we keep prices down. So we're a good option on that side. So Avalon's, they're good pricing. But yeah, just the halving cycle pushes these prices to points. If it's your first cycle that you've been in Bitcoin mining, just go, you can open up the Google and look at how the Bitcoin price has moved in these 4-year cycles. You can match with the halving dates. We're coming up on another one, so be ready. And it's just, they move almost like commodity prices. So Bitcoin miners, they're cheap right now.
So I think the biggest thing for me, just like noticing what was going on with the internal conversations that we were having amongst like site ops, hardware, things like that. We were having conversations in October, November. All those conversations are kind of dead, and we had to restart everything because we're preparing for a different kind of market now than we were in October. So I think everybody kind of had a feeling that there was going to be some kind of Q4 bump after having. Having is a very big catalyst, but you kind of got to keep in mind that we still have a capitalist economy. There's a lot of like market trends that you can be beholden to, and then there's a lot of market trends that you can trade on. I think that the oil and gas guys do really well in our space because of this. They're really good at dealing with cyclical markets from things like rising and falling gas prices, oil prices, things like that. Same thing with your regular stock market analysts, your day traders, things like that. They understand the rules of the game. They know when to buy, they know when to hold, they know when to sell. To Chris's point, it being a commodity, it's the same story. You have to understand what your financial plan is. Where it's a good time to buy machines now, but it was an even better time to buy machines in October or September. And I'm sure there's a lot of people here that wishes they would have done that, right? But whenever it comes down to it, you have to be able to look at the whole market. You have to understand all of the cycles that are happening, and you have to understand things like difficulty and the way that the hash rate is going to play on that. A little while ago, we were talking on the side about hash rate difficulty increases, right? Whenever we were doing calculations in 2017, 2018, we were trying to account for a 4 or 5% annual difficulty increase. I think this past year it was over 40%. That is a game changer for Bitcoin miners. This is why Bitcoin miners are starting to allude to other altcoins and things like that to kind of build their base, diversify their revenue. So I would say, even though the price is high, you still prepare for the bear market no matter what you do.
All right, so we're running out of time. We'll end this with the summary that either if you are mining, you consider yourself to be a commodity trader, where the commodity is these mining machines, or you mine altcoins. All right, guys, thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you, Nishant.